So after Kadire went Aaron Hill. I love both of those picks. God, those are both nice ones. Then Everett Cabrera, really solid value there. Really kind of makes, and that's another one that points to this Hanley Ramirez pick as being one that I'm not super excited about, just because I do feel like while Hanley justifies a first-round pick, kind of like Buster Posey justifies a pretty high pick, there's more value to be had at shortstop and second base later in the draft than you're going to find at outfield, first base, third base, which is why I tend to prefer to spend those first and second rounders on elite corner infielders and elite outfielders. Sergio Romo, Alex Cobb selected. So missed out on Cobb, that's okay. Plenty of other arms here that I would feel fine about taking. At this point, the drop that Gio Gonzalez is taking, this precipitous drop, to use the preferred nomenclature, really makes me wonder why he's fallen so far. There are no notes for him on Yahoo, so I mean, I'm assuming he's healthy and people are just avoiding the whip and ERA risk that comes along with him. Let's take a look at his kind of career numbers to see what's going on there. Yeah, I mean, he's a career 3.59 ERA, 132 whip guy. 2012 was definitely his career year. 207 strikeouts, 2.89 ERA, 1.13 whip, and a 2.06 batting average against. These aren't advanced statistics by any stretch of the imagination, but you look at those numbers relative to what he's done basically every other year of his career and just over his career, and he's really a 360, 350 type of ERA guy with a whip in the 1.25 to 1.3 range, and that's probably just not better than these other guys who you could be taking with a little bit higher upside. After Cobb went Jose Abreu and Matt Moore. Someone screamed, "No!" I'm assuming that's for the Abreu pick. So that was a sweet one. Someone says, Gio loves pitching from the stretch. Yeah. And he was just selected. So, of the pitchers available here, pretty sure I have Tanaka ranked highest, and that's a lot of speculation. And then after that, I have, let's see, Cueto, Cingrani, Ryu, Waka. Let's get those guys in the queue too. And, okay, so Tanaka's definitely an option here. We can look at infielders again to see if we want to fill that spot. Might still be able to wait there. Outfield, a lot of the same names. I mean, it's important to also look at what this team needs. And at this point, that would be speed. A lot of power guys. The only guys that are really going to steal a whole lot of bases for me are maybe Bryce Harper. And that's it. So I need to start maybe valuing guys like Victorino with a little more aggressively, guys who are going to offer some stolen bases. With that said, there are a lot of outfielders at this point that will, contribute in that category. Infielders, not so much. Yeah, looking at starters, let's again take a look at what's going on here between my picks. Jason needs a shortstop and outfielders and utility players. And maybe not outfielders because he has Craig currently at his infield spot. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to take another pitcher here. And see who comes back. Took Tanaka, by the way. Koji Uehara was the pick before me. But let's see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes to me next. We're in that no man's land where there are a lot of players who are just very similar in value, and you kind of have to pick the ones that match your team's needs more than anything else. Billy Butler and Brian McCann were selected. So I definitely think it's worth considering an outfielder here. Victorino, Desmond Jennings, Brett Gardner kind of at the top of that list, but also Nelson Cruz, and maybe even Carl Crawford as a guy we could maybe tab for a bounce back. Looking at relief pitchers, I could jump on that train too and take a closer. And then infielders, yeah, there are just still too many guys here that I like that makes me feel like I can't make that pick here. So I'm gonna try and shore up my speed need a little bit. I'm gonna take Victorino, try to protect my batting average a little bit, and not give up too much in the power department. He's not a huge speed guy, but 20 steals will be helpful. And hopefully he'll score a lot of runs at the top of that Boston lineup. Victorino is a guy that I tend to not like having on my team because he doesn't do anything especially well. He just kind of does everything else okay. And that's boring to me, I guess, more than anything. But, yeah, interesting. I guess I do have the catcher position to fill as well, so it's good to note which guys are still available there. Sal Perez, Jonathan Lucroy, Matt Wieters, Wilson Ramos, Evan Gattis, Miguel Montero, Jason Castro. Honestly, if you're not going to get one of the really elite guys, I think any one of these guys is probably fine in a one-catcher league. I tend to draft where I'm the last or second to last person to take a catcher, and it serves me relatively well. There's something to be said about having a quality backstop that you can count on, though, instead of having to maybe take a chance on Jason Castro, and if that doesn't work out, play catcher bingo for the rest of the season, where you're kind of shuffling guys in and out of the lineup, hoping to catch the hot hand. One guy I want to highlight as a nice late round value potentially is Carlos Ruiz. He was hurt most of last year, but he's not a bad fantasy catcher, especially considering how late you can get him in drafts. Let's go back to the overall rankings here, and let's just look at the top 5 guys here. Ryu, Laurie, Brandon Phillips, Iwakuma, Starlin Castro. Castro is an interesting guy in the sense that he was really hyped up last season. I hyped him myself, and I was pretty surprised and disappointed that he didn't deliver on that hype. With that said, falling as far in the rankings as he did this season just seems like a major overreaction. The guy's still really young. I understand he's injured right now or nursing injuries, so that's a whole different story. But as far as his potential, what we've seen him do maybe 2 years ago and at times last year still leads me to believe he could be a valuable fantasy shortstop. With that said, I already have Hanley Ramirez, so I'm not really looking for him per se for this team, but I do think that the rate at which he has dropped is a bit of an overreaction. So let's catch up on some more of the picks here. After I took Victorino, the next picks were Matt Adams, Michael Wacha, Brandon Belt, Nelson Cruz, and Glenn Perkins. I feel like I've talked about all those guys. I think that they're all fine picks at this point in the draft. I especially like the Cruz pick. And a lot of people chiming in on Glenn Perkins being a nice value there, and I'm inclined to agree. Relative to where the elite closers go, Perkins' numbers aren't all that different, and you can get him this many rounds later, so that's solid. Yeah. And there goes Brett Laurie. He is a guy that I definitely considered with that last pick where I took Victorino, and I'm almost certain I have Laurie ranked higher as far as hitters go. It's just the team need of stolen bases kind of outweighed what I think I would have gotten from Laurie in that spot. Yeah. So looking at the other hitters kind of available at the top of my rankings here, Castro's up there. Again, not a guy I'm really interested in at this point, but someone who should be going. Granderson, Parado, Matt Adams. Yep. Austin Jackson, Desmond Jennings. A lot of these same guys that I keep bringing up, but we're kind of at that point in the draft where it just comes down to team need more than anything else. Martin Prado was just selected, followed by Jason Greeley. And yeah, the closer run has begun. This is it. Starting to fly off the board. And this is where, you know, you need some number of them, even if it's just the 2 to fill your relief pitcher spots in the lineup. Whether or not, like, you want to take them early or maybe bank on just the bargain basement guys, Astros, Mets type closers. That's kind of a pick your poison. Which way do you want to go? Do you want to get super sweet value, or do you want to kind of ensure that you're getting a guy who is in line for a good number of saves? Keeping it going, Tony Cingrani and Addison Reed were just selected. So, yep, relief pitchers flying off the board. With that said, I'm going to go back to batters, see who's available here. Kind of the same cast of characters we were looking at before. With infield and 2 utility spots to fill, along with catcher, I can basically take any position and be fine with it, outfield or infielder. So when it comes to hitters, you're kind of just taking best available or best available for your team. And yeah, it's the position scarcity doesn't really matter because I have all those spots locked up. Austin Jackson, Jed Jerko were just selected. Love Jed Jerko. He's a good one. Don't sleep on him. In fact, I mean, just waiting until the 13th round. You wait because you can get the value, but he could easily deliver maybe, 6th, 7th, 8th round value under the right circumstances. So yeah, not a whole lot of changes here at infield. Going back to pitching, I don't really need to take a starter here. I have 4 guys that I think are all pretty quality, and there is a fair amount of kind of value still to be had at the position. So if I do take a pitcher here, I probably will just jump on the relief pitcher run and take one of these guys available. Johnny Cueto was just selected. So yeah, Zach Jacobson says he would have taken Jerko 4 rounds earlier, and yeah, I mean, that sounds right to me. Like I said, you can get him in the 13th, but if you take him in the 8th or 9th, it's not a bad pick based upon the value that he should return. And he is climbing up draft boards for sure. Let's see. David Robertson was just selected. So I think it's time to maybe just zoom in on relievers in general. Soriano, Jansen, Papelbon, Jim Johnson, Grant Balfour, kind of top of the ranks here. A little further down, Houston Street, Ernesto Freire, Coco Crisp was just selected. So I'll look at outfielders again, because that is what is needed by our opponent here, picking between us. None of these guys really jump out at me. Brett Gardner would fill a need, but so would Michael Bourne or Carl Crawford or Ben Revere. Like, these guys are all fine speed targets. So I think it comes down to either reliever or just best hitter available. As far as hitters go, I don't know who that is for me. It might just be Granderson, although the batting average risk there is considerable. I think I'm going to take a reliever, make sure I don't fall too far behind on that. We'll do a quick assessment of the news, because I haven't really been keeping up to date on the closer situations yet. Casey Jansen, I'm pretty sure, is hurting. Yeah, he's got a shoulder issue. That's not good. Jim Johnson is just a guy I don't like because he doesn't strike out a lot of guys. Soriano, it's kind of in that same bandwagon. With that in mind, I think I'm going to take Freire here. I just like the upside of getting 100 strikeouts from a reliever. The ratios won't be as good, but it's over a small sample size of innings, so they don't hurt you as much. And with guys like Cole, Minor, Teheran, and hopefully Tanaka holding down my whip and ERA to a reasonable level, the downside of Freire in that spot won't be too significant. Let's see. So Might be time to take a batter here. We'll bring those